Welcome back to HQ Spotlight here on CBS Sports Network. The NBA Finals tipping off tomorrow night, 8:30 Eastern from Oklahoma City. Tyrese Halliburton and SGA, no surprise, enter with the shortest odds to win Finals MVP. You see SGA, they're the favorite at -550, but both could certainly use the award to cement their legacy. We know those two are just in a league of their own, a tier of their own even. And so as we try to sort out the rest of the field, we do so with the co-host of the Beyond the Arc podcast, our John Gonzalez, joining the show. Going to kind of break up the finals players here in tiers so that when we see them take the court tomorrow, we kind of know what to expect out of them. So, John, let's start with tier 4 because we got a lot of great talent between these two. But it starts in tier 4. It's a group that includes Lou Dort, Alex Caruso, and Aaron Nesmith.
Yeah, I almost think of this tier, Haley, as sort of like the 3 and D tier. So you have Lou Dort heading this tier. He made all defense this season. He's been fantastic. The guy right behind him, I feel like, is almost an extension of Lou Dort. When Lou Dort is a little tired, or maybe he picks up foul trouble, or maybe he doesn't have his game working, well, in comes Alex Caruso, who they picked up from the Chicago Bulls for Josh Giddey, who had fallen out of favor, fallen out of the rotation, was basically unplayable in the postseason. Got him straight up for Josh Giddey. What a boon for Sam Presti. He's the best general manager in the NBA, the executive of the year for a reason. And those two guys are basically mirror images of each other. They're both super switchable. And Alex Caruso is so good, Haley, that in the previous series, in round 2 rather, against Nikola Jokic and the Denver Nuggets, when they needed somebody to guard the best player, apologies to SGA, the MVP, but the best player in the world, in Nikola Jokic, they threw Alex Caruso at him, and he was giving up 6 inches and 100 pounds. That's how good Alex Caruso is. And then also in this tier from the other end, sort of their version of Dort and Caruso is Aaron Nesmith, who can get super hot from deep. You saw how he helped them win those first 2 games in New York, get a series lead against the Knicks. And he's also a fantastic defender. You can throw him, I suspect, a lot at SGA and Jalen Williams in the series. So all 3 of those guys really talented at both ends of the floor.
When I think about Alex Caruso, it takes me back to when I was playing college soccer in graduate school, and I was like at least 3 years older than everyone else on the field, and so practice was always fun. And I feel like that's Alex Caruso because he's like the old captain in this room full of just like teenage Aura boys doing all of their interviews. It's a lot of fun to watch. All right. Let's go to your tier 3, John, because there's some heavy hitters here. When we look at Sportsline's best bets right now online, one of them you can find Chet Holmgren over 27.5 points, assists, and rebounds. You can also find Miles Turner over 5.5 rebounds, and they both conveniently land right here in your 3rd tier, John.
Yeah. I like both of them. Don't think I'm going to let that your Alex Caruso fastball go by. I'm taking a swing at that. We're going to start calling you the Alex Caruso of CBS Sports. So that's coming up. That's your new name.
See, but I feel like it doesn't fit for CBS because I'm actually, I think, one of the youngest people here. So I'm like, if everyone else around me is Alex Caruso and I get to be the Aura girl here.
We're gonna like sort of adopt it to you just being super versatile and being able to do all of these different things, much like Alex Caruso. Okay, big man tier. Chet and Miles Turner, yes, but Chet Holmgren is fantastic. Missed a huge chunk of the season due to injury, which is part of the reason why they had Isaiah Hartenstein. But he's so good at both ends of the floor. He's a really good rim protector. He can shoot from distance as well. But on the defensive end, he's one of my favorites for potential defensive player of the year nod sometime in his future. Non-Wemby division. We'll see what happens with Wemby in that blood clot. But that's how good Chet Holmgren is. And then Miles Turner, sort of the same, but a little bit less than Chet Holmgren in terms of like what he can do on the floor. You're going to get the same thing where he's going to play from the perimeter. He's not a traditional big man. The NBA doesn't really play that way anymore, but he's going to bomb away from 3 and then also try to protect the rim. So both of these guys, very talented. As we go through these tiers, Haley, you're going to see a lot of similarities. We're just talking about the 3 and D tier, now the big man tier. And it's kind of like these two teams have a lot of similarities in that the Pacers do a lot of things well that Oklahoma City does well. It's just that Oklahoma City has more of those guys, and they're just a scotch better at everything.
Yeah, it's interesting when we look at this series because there's been a lot of groaning on social media about, oh, it's the Pacers and it's the Thunder and it's not very sexy. But as you go up and down the rosters, even with the starting 5, there's some superstar talent here, and so people just got to change their perspectives a little bit, John. We're going to get to those superstars in just a minute. We all know who's in that top tier, but when we go to tier 2, it's interesting because I think that this is kind of where the series is going to come down to, is how your secondary players help out the superstars. And here in your second tier, we look at Jalen Williams and we look at Pascal Siakam, 2 guys who have been really, really, really important to the game plan to this point for both of their teams.
Yeah, this is the backup option tier, right? I mean, and no disrespect to them because both of these guys are incredible. Pascal Siakam is an NBA champion in his previous stop with the Toronto Raptors. I covered that entire series back in 2019, and he was so good. And he's been so good for them in this playoffs. I mean, the first 2 rounds a little bit slower, but he was excellent against the New York Knicks. So good, in fact, that he ended up as the Eastern Conference Finals MVP, much to the surprise of Tyrese Halliburton, who I'm sure you saw when they called out for the Eastern Conference Finals MVP. Halliburton took a step forward, and everybody was like, nope, it's Siakam. So that's how good he's been. And they needed every bit of that for him to get over, for them to get over the New York Knicks. And they're going to need Pascal Siakam to be that version of himself if they have any chance to beat the Oklahoma City Thunder, because Oklahoma City really is just that much better. Pacers are really good. They deserve to be here, and they're here because of Pascal Siakam and a whole bunch of other guys. And then Jalen Williams, what a season he's had, Haley. He pulled the trifecta. He had his first All-Star appearance, his first All-NBA appearance, and then, yeah, just for good measure, he also made All-Defense. If it wasn't for SGA being on this team, this is the guy that we'd be talking about nonstop. I mean, we think about great duos in the NBA. These guys haven't won a championship yet, but if they do, SGA and Jalen Williams is going to immediately go to the forefront of best duos of their era, and then, you know, just depending on how this thing goes, because they're really set up for a potential dynasty. I know that I'm maybe getting ahead of things here because they haven't won one yet, but if they keep stacking wins here, these two guys are going to be looked at as one of the great duos of all time. They're that good.
We're going to have to get an updated photo of Jalen Williams, because every time we post and it's his big afro that he had at Media Day, it makes me laugh every time. John, before we move on to that tier 1, something that kind of stood out to me while you were listening is that both of these guys are going to have to show up in order to help their team win. Is there a player between Pascal Siakam and Jalen Williams that you think needs to be at their absolute best if they're going to provide that support to an SGA or even a Halliburton?
Yeah, it's Siakam. I mean, Jalen Williams, he's fantastic. I just rattled off all the things that he's done this season, and he's one of my favorite young players to watch in the NBA. He's really taken a huge leap. But Oklahoma City has redundancy here, Haley. They have so many different ways that they can beat you. If SGA isn't operating at an SGA level on any given night, well, here comes Jalen Williams. Similarly, if Jalen Williams isn't operating at his best level, they still have Chet Holmgren. They still have Lou Dort, Alex Caruso, Kason Wallace. Oh, they need scoring. Here come Andrew Wiggins and Isaiah Joe. That's how much depth they have. And yes, the bench for the Pacers is really good and it's really valuable. But if they're going to get over the hump and beat Oklahoma City, who are the heavy favorites in this, they need Pascal Siakam to be that Eastern Conference Finals level MVP. Pascal Siakam, Spicy P, Playoff P. They need him operating at not just 100%, like above that capacity. We're going to have to turn up the generators a little bit on this series.
Yeah, we had a graphic that we showed earlier in the week of Pascal Siakam's resume, and like you forget that this guy is a champion. He brings in a lot of accolades as well, too. So I'm excited to watch him play in another finals. All right, John, we know that both of these teams, top 9 for most points per game in a single postseason all time. That's a minimum of 15 games. We also know that is largely in part to our top tier, which includes Tyrese Halliburton and SGA. We know they're in a league of their own. And this word legacy, I feel like, just keeps getting thrown away. And I feel like we're jumping the gun just a little bit when we talk legacy, because these guys both just have so much more to play for in front of them. So I'll kind of change the question this way. When you look at both Tyrese and Shai here, John, which player in your mind maybe needs this win so that their legacy looks a little nicer down the road?
Yeah, well, I think Halliburton's probably playing with house money here, right? Because outside of Indiana, with apologies to the Pacers, and I have friends who work in that organization, I don't think anybody expected the Pacers to be in the NBA Finals. So if Halliburton wins this thing with the Pacers, and in that scenario, he'd almost certainly be in line for finals MVP along with Siakam. It would have to be one of those two guys. That would be a huge legacy booster. But again, I don't think anybody anticipated they'd be here. So for legacy purposes, I think it would have to be SGA, right? Because last year they get bounced out of the playoffs in the second round. The Dallas Mavericks beat them. They go on to lose to the Boston Celtics. And it was kind of a little bit disappointing, right? Because they were the number 1 seed just as they were the number 1 seed this year. Well, this year, Oklahoma City is the heavy favorites in the postseason and in the NBA Finals for a reason. They're absolutely stacked. They won 68 games, most wins in the NBA this season. They had the best defense in the NBA this season by a million miles. They had the best point differential in the NBA by a million miles. And SGA is the MVP. He usurped Nikola Jokic and got the MVP from a guy who a lot of people, including me, think is the best player in the world. Then he goes and wins the Western Conference Finals MVP. If for some reason the wheels come off this thing a little bit and they lose to the Pacers, it would be a huge boon for the Pacers. And I think people would look at OKC a little sideways. So this would just be for SGA cementing what we've seen all season long, which is that he's been the best player on the best team, and it would just be continuing that narrative and finishing off the storyline.
All right, John, so as we put a bow on this segment, when it comes to Tyrese and SGA, two kind of different paths in the regular season. SGA, I think, averaged 39 points in the regular season series. Tyrese Halliburton had just 11. If you were banking on one of the stars to show up in a big way in game one, who would it be?
Yeah, it's going to be SGA. They've only lost 7 times at home all season. That includes the postseason. SGA is so good at hunting fouls, getting to the line. Even when his shot isn't falling, he's going to score the ball, set people up, play at both ends. And the atmosphere in Oklahoma City is going to be electric tonight. I'm going to take SGA.
All right, SGA, the MVP. We'll see if he is also the finals MVP. And we learned a lot about the guys taking the court tomorrow. John Gonzalez, we certainly appreciate the time here on HQ Spotlight. Plenty more from John Gonzalez and his co-host Bill Reiter on the Beyond the Arc podcast, where they are tackling all things in the NBA. You can scan that QR code to watch right now or listen wherever you get your podcasts.